Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hey, yo, where'd that come from? Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Okay, we're here.
We are here.
Once again, welcome. Good evening, everybody. This is Conversations with Pam and David, and we're getting ready to have a doozy here. Looking forward to this one. Hope you're connecting up and sharing with somebody to join us tonight. It is our Saturday evening. Brother is on. All righty.
Oh,
hey,
wow.
Hey.
He's on. And
He's back.
No, he's not. He's still in Washington Airport.
Oh, God.
His flight was delayed this morning.
Oh, see, that's why I was going to have... He was the first one I was going to invite on.
Oh, okay.
So, but he's around. All right. Praise
yes,
God. Sister Darlene is on.
Hello. Hey, Darlene. How are you?
All right. All right. Some more people coming on. Our guests are ready for us. Man, we are ready. We are ready. Tonight,
yes, we
have a conversation.
Yes.
I'm interested in seeing where this is going to go.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of opinions flying around right now.
Oh, a lot.
You know, we're seeing a lot of things online, a lot of back and forth, a lot of arguments and discussions and let's say differences of opinion.
Yes.
People on different sides of this conversation.
Exactly. You know, and that's why we have conversations.
So I hope some of them will actually join us in the conversation. They can call in, they can connect up. And see what people got to say, because I don't know that there's a right, wrong answer. There's just different feelings and different approaches.
Yes,
so,
and we would like to hear.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what people got to say about this. So anyway, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
We were gone last week.
Busy day. Yes, we were. Yes, we were gone last week. We took some time
away. Yeah, had to
do something for just you and I.
And it's funny because, like anytime we're gone for a week, I come back and I'm like, how does this work again? It's like, wait, where's my instruction manual?
Well, you need a refresher.
There's a lot of stuff going on up here. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff going on up here.
A lot. You have created another studio.
A monster.
Yes.
That's what I've created.
Yes.
So there's all kind of gadgets and turn this on and flip this way. And, we got multiple screens happening here, multiple lights and camera and action.
Camera, action.
So,
Let's go.
So I think we got it together. I think we're on. I'm glad to have everybody joining us. Just get a little bit of time. Got more viewers that are coming in as we go. You can also share, by the way, from the subject that's going on. We're talking about Halloween tonight.
Yes.
And the church. By the way, I was going to tell you what I doing today. Wearing myself out.
As usual. As usual. This is what you do.
The good thing was I wasn't doing it alone.
Well, that's good.
I had a team.
You had a team.
And we went in.
Teamwork.
We got it done.
That's good, babe.
Right. We were at the church today doing some stuff. And very cool. I think people will get excited when they come in and see the stuff that's changing in there.
Yes, you have made a lot of changes.
A lot of stuff going on
since
over there.
The building was purchased. How many years ago?
Oh gosh, it's 5+
5
years.
Yes, because we've been married.
It'll be
almost 5. So you bought the building right at that time.
April will be 6 years.
Yes.
So it's been 5 years, and a lot over the past 2 to 3 years has changed. Since COVID came, we've been going like gangbusters.
We have not stopped.
Inside the building, outside the building.
Yes.
And so, everything is looking, it's coming along. It's coming along.
Yes,
so we're pretty happy about that.
We did not slow down when COVID hit.
Yeah.
We actually
we ramped up.
We became busier. We got a lot of things done.
Yeah, we hit a whole nother gear.
Yes, we did.
Stuff we didn't think we could even handle and do.
Exactly. And things that we didn't even think about doing.
Right.
Well, you thought about some things.
God has a vision.
Yes, he has a vision. You definitely thought about Livestream.
That's one of the things.
And that's what we're doing.
Right? Slow down. Darlene's trying to tell me slow down.
Darlene, he doesn't know how to do that.
Darlene, I need more help. I need help. But the problem is, if I got more help, we would just do more stuff.
We'd do more things, right?
So,
You'd have more.
But I still need more help.
More projects.
We got more things to do. We're not capped yet. Anyway, we got some great folks coming on with us tonight to join us. I'm really excited to have our friends in the gospel, both friends in the gospel and friends of ours,
our brothers,
coming on to talk with us.
Spiritual brothers.
And by the way, it's their fault.
What?
Overachievers. You want to talk about overachievers? This is the overachieving group, by the way. This is the overachieving team here.
It really is.
Right?
I have to agree.
On my left and my right, if I can just keep up with these two, I tell you.
You know what? They're probably saying the same thing about you.
Jeez, man, I'm telling you.
They're probably like, This Stewart
Like,
man.
look, these guys, man, they keep it going. They keep it going. They
Yes.
keep me tired just thinking about all the stuff they do.
You have to
So,
keep it going, babe.
well,
That's is what we do.
well, let us gather. Let us pull the team in. Let's get it going.
Yes.
Yeah, I see they're coming online, so we're
Okay.
gonna come on board with them as well and connect up here. Let's see if we can find the right one. There we go. Okay, here comes the team.
Yes,
The team is coming.
Yes.
All right, let me turn the mics off.
This is the dream team.
Hey, I gotta turn off my music. Hang on a second.
Yes. Okay.
All right. There we go. Oh, Dr. Johnny Harris, Bishop Gregory Wells.
Yes.
In the house.
In the house.
Can you guys hear us all right?
Yes, sir. How are you today?
All right.
Perfect. Let me just make a couple of little adjustments here. Get us all lined up very good.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Look
Okay.
at these fine gentlemen.
Yes, they are.
That have taken out of their Saturday nights. I think we probably pulled Dr. Harris away from an Alabama game somewhere today.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Actually, believe it or not, they're on a bye. So
They're
we
on.
are good.
They're
Look
what?
at God! They're on a bye week. Look at God! Line that up. Otherwise, he would have been like, "I don't know. I don't know if I can make it this week. Let me get back to you. I gotta check my schedule."
yeah.
And bless you, Bishop.
Bishop Wells, how are
Bless
you?
you. How are you, Bishop Wells?
How you doing, Bishop? We lost him.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Like I had a little slow signal there. I'm sure he'll be back. He's coming back.
he's coming back.
Technical difficulties for all of us.
Yes.
You gotta love
It
the
happens.
modern technology stuff we deal with. All right, he'll be back in just a second, but I'm very happy to have both of our good friends with us.
Yes.
Yes.
To talk about some interesting stuff and opinions and things that are going on. And before we even jump into that, I was gonna do a little bit of roundtable anyway. So, Dr. Harris, while you're on, this is first of all for all of everybody that's watching us. This is eventually to be Bishop Dr. Johnny Harris.
Yes.
Of Provision Full Gospel and Interlink Ministries. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the ministries, first of all?
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, let me say what an honor it is to be with both of you. I love you both very much, and I'm certainly honored to be here. I certainly thank God for what he's doing in the midst of the ministry, as we, of course, are looking to really, I want to say, come out of this pandemic better and stronger.
Yes.
We're calling it the nature of the Interlink 3.0,
All right.
recognizing the importance of how to continuously build upon ministering, of course, within the house physically,
Yes.
but making sure that we have such an extreme streaming presence that will, of course, reach throughout the world. And again, of course, about our schooling, our education periods that we've had the opportunity to have as a part of the Interlink family. We've just graduated our first master's, our first master's degrees for theology, and we're looking forward to just being approved for our doctorate program. So that's something that we're very excited about in terms of, again, just what God is doing in the midst of the ministry. And again, just looking forward to like I said, coming out of this place that, of course, we all have been in over the course of really almost 2 years.
Yes.
But thanks be to God that he has kept us thus far.
Yes.
Along that subject, and by the way, I just saw you had put some pictures up about a leadership course program that you just did as well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That in itself was an effective leadership training that we had in-house. And so as a part of this, or I should say really today, we did the first portion for Rochester, and then we're going to be doing the next portion for Buffalo on next week. Tomorrow, everyone is coming together under one roof here in Rochester. So again, just really collaborating, making sure that we're in the place of unity and doing the best that we can, even in the midst of, while still dealing with the final stages of what we hope is the pandemic.
And are you still teaching in Syracuse as well?
Yes, sir. But the thing that we're doing now is because of, again, where we've been, we are now actually streaming everything and doing it online. And so therefore it prevents us from having to really go over as much Now, of course, I still deal with obviously our campus there in Syracuse, as we're also, dealing with Buffalo. But the ability to really, like I said, collaborate, condense some things, and just do it more effectively. We're having such an enormous presence. Thank God for that, where people are adjusting to being in their own homes. They don't have to necessarily go out the doors.
Yes.
And every Saturday morning, they're ready to learn. And so I'm thankful for all of the instructors, the deans, those that really help us to make a presence that's really needed in effective leadership and training.
And did you say that you're also starting to do some of the training internationally now too?
Absolutely. One of the things that we're doing is we've connected with churches in Johannesburg, and so in Africa, that's a plus for us. And then also as a part of, I want to say, our covering, which is the Turning Fellowship, we're looking forward to what God is going to be doing in terms of Congo. So there's many discussions that are going forth in order to make sure that, again, we're providing them the necessary materials and just making it a place where, again, for the basis of learning, people can really be educated, certified in particular areas, because, again, it is always needed. We always have a place where we can educate.
And so when we talk about overachievers, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm dealing with. This is
I'm still trying to get to your level.
This is what I got going on around me.
3 overachievers present right here on the screen. You 3 men.
and speaking of overachievers, then there comes Bishop Gregory Wells.
Yes.
Bishop, say something. Let me make sure we hear you. Say something. Let me make sure that we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? No, we're not hearing you.
Guess I have to unmute.
It's not muted. There's something else that's off.
Coming.
Here it comes. It's connecting now.
It's connecting now.
Come on.
Bishop is not used to doing his own thing. You know what I mean?
Okay, here it comes.
Why you go do that to him like that?
Got it?
I'm not. Did it connect? It attempted to, but it didn't connect. Man, we may have to have you call in. Actually, what you can do is you can call in, and we'll use that for your voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Something in your audio is not connected up.
It's the audio. Yeah.
So if you use the call in number and call in, then we'll just use that as your voice to go along with your use your phone and call us on that phone number I gave you. Good evening, Sister Latasha. How are you?
Hi, Latasha.
Let me ask you, Dr. Harris, what do you said several times about us coming out of this that we've been going through. What is your sense of what that's going to look like?
Yes.
I mean, are we really coming out it, or are we going forward into something else?
No, I really think that we're going to be.
I think I heard him. Bishop.
Yeah, I think I'm in.
You're in.
Okay, you're in. Yes. All right.
Glory.
Okay.
He's in.
Yes.
Now, it wasn't me that said that you're not used to doing your own stuff. It was Dr. Harris. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I think I'm in.
All right.
I hear a lot of background, but we definitely hear your voice now.
It wasn't me that said that you're not used to doing your own stuff.
Yeah, okay, it's looping on you. There you go. All right, beautiful. Let me ask Dr. Harris. I have Dr. Harris pick up this point, and we'll come back to you about what are we headed to? I mean, I personally have a hard sense thinking that the goal is to get back where we were, because I'm just seeing this virus cycling for a while. What do you think the future looks like, both in terms of society and in terms of ministry?
I think in terms of it at all, and you're absolutely right, it's something that is not going to necessarily go away on tomorrow. It is something that we're definitely going to have to adjust to. And as a part of it, relative to the ministry, relative to society in itself. We are going to provide more innovative ways that we can, again, be effective while yet being somewhat apart in terms of this. Now, of course, in terms of ministry, I tell churches all the time, pastors certainly agree, that if we think that we're going to be going back to the way that it used to be, it's not going to happen. We are necessarily going to we have to make sure that we are really having 2 church services at one time. And that signifies that you have those that feel comfortable and, of course, in coming into the church. But then there's the place where in some aspects of how, they do it in particular areas where they have the capacity or the resources of really streaming. And so, as I've been sharing with our church, we have to understand that our presentation has to be one where we're not just ministering to those who are in front of us, but those that are even chiming in. It's really the basis of this. We have to understand that people aren't going to be using their feet, they're going to be using their fingers. And the fingers is the place in which they're going to be coming in. I think about Joshua chapter 3, and I looked at a particular passage of scripture in verse 4, part B, where it talks about how we have not passed this way before. And that's one of the things that is so very key. As God was leading them into this promised land, they had to recognize that the way that they did it in Moses' day was no longer. And so the pre-pandemic is not going to be that. You're not going to see the 5,000 or 6,000 gathering together. Many of our churches are certainly going to condense. The building space is not going to be as used as normal, but there's still effective ways that we can do this by way of, again, the nature of technology and using it smart.
Yeah, and people need a sense of fellowship some way or the other.
Right.
Bishop Wells, I know that the pandemic has impacted your ministry in a lot of different ways, and you've had to do some changes, modify, adjust. Can you share a little bit about, first of all, your ministry overall for those who may not be aware, and then a little bit about what the pandemic has meant to your ministry?
Absolutely. And again, I'm thankful for being on with you guys, and certainly apologize for those difficulties there.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Yes, this has been quite a transition for us to adjust to this new environment of virtual ministry and accommodating two audiences. We have our physical audience and then, of course, our virtual audience.
Right.
And I'm trying to get us acclimated to dealing with the duality of that, and definitely had to make a lot of changes. We are following the protocols. We're doing things as best as we know how. I know there's a lot of disagreement with who's taking and receiving the vaccine and who isn't, but I've been one who've endorsed the vaccine. I believe that it is been the vehicle to get as close to what we used to see as possible, although I am totally in agreement with Pastor Harris that I don't think we'll ever get back to that place. But I think that there was something good in that now we're reaching an audience that wasn't churched, that are not acclimated to the religion of our culture in church. And now they're tuning in and they're getting the word. And many of them are getting saved and now coming into the knowledge of God, because, of course, we're reaching out to an audience that didn't want to come into the culture of church. So, yes, we're doing the temperature checks at the door, the sanitation at the door. We're still signing people in. We're still in a must mask wear environment. And we're also spacing people properly in our church so that, we can just follow all of those. But our church has really been catching on with deciding to take the vaccine. We had a lot of reluctance at the beginning, and we had a lot of people who were, weren't sure. But now we see that the science is becoming a little bit more available, and the education on the vaccine is now coming readily available, and people are deciding to do it. And which has been good for us. We were impacted negatively by this. Of course, everyone was, but it was really, really a tough hit for our church. We had some losses. A lot of people got sick, but one of our dear missionaries, Precious Morel. She didn't make it through it, and we're still trying to survive the impact of that. But nonetheless, God is good, and the church is starting to kind of readjust to this new environment. So I think that it's interesting where we're going to go. I'm certainly interested in seeing how God is going to unfold as it relates to, I believe, enlarging the kingdom through this very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, this so reminds me. We talked about this at the beginning about how in the New Testament church, when they were in Jerusalem, they were pushed out of Jerusalem because they had in essence gotten pretty comfortable there. I mean, there was a lot of pressure around the Roman soldiers around, but when the Holy Spirit first came, they were so excited about the group and the joining and expanding of the group, and they were very happy and content being together in fellowship in Jerusalem. And when the pressure of the attacks of others around them, the Sanhedrin, etc., came on, it forced them out of Jerusalem. And when it forced them out, it forced them to complete the assignment of Christ to go ye therefore into all the world and all nations. Right. And so it seems like it's been another one of those times and opportunities where it's caused the church to be forced out of its doors. I remember actually personally just before the coronavirus started, like that fall, that and going into that December, January, February, I was preaching a lot about the church getting stuck inside of its buildings, and the church isn't just the walls, and we have to get out. And then all of a sudden, bam, this hits, and we everybody's kicked out of their church. So I mean, I do think that this is bringing a new era and a new day of ministry. Dr. Harris, what do you see in terms of, as you look forward, what do you see and think will happen to ministry as we go forward?
Ministry is going to be more effective, and it's really about going back to what I like to consider the law first mentioned. You were actually touching on it, and it even leads to the particular place of Acts chapter 2 when the church, of course, vitally grew. What was important in terms of that, the scripture says how Acts 2:42, it talks about how they continued in the apostles' doctrine, they continued in fellowship, they continued in breaking of bread, they continued in prayer. But then as you skip down, it says that they went from house to house. This is a wonderful period where we can now get back into houses. I think about some pastors who, again, with larger ministries, didn't even know who their membership was, didn't know who this individual might have been. And so now is the period where there is this condensing that overall we can see a little bit more of the effectiveness of, again, this fellowship that is needed, so that houses, homes, families, individuals, of course, can be changed in the midst of this. And then just going back to, again, assuring that, within this level of ministry, we're going to follow every nature of guidelines. That's important. But there is, of course, still this position, there's still this place that as men and women of God, for what God has assigned us to, that we don't have to have what we think that we need in order to get into someone's home, in order to bless them with what God has given us. And that's the doctrine, that's the belief, that's the word.
And speaking of getting to people's home, Bishop Wells, I mean, as I have seen in terms of our on-stream audience, you mentioned a little bit about how people were receiving the word and getting saved. I'm finding even that there's a lot of just straight up displaced Christians. I mean, people who believe in God, but they have not been connected to a physical church or church body in a long time. For whatever reason, it hasn't fit, it hasn't worked. And people all over the country, you get people that are just straight up hungry. And I think a lot of times they don't realize why, but they've been isolated and they haven't been fed. And all of a sudden they get connected into this and they're hungry for it. Bishop, what are you seeing in your live stream audiences at this point?
It's interesting that you mentioned that because, after, we've engaged this pandemic, I found that we found people who weren't involved in the church environment, people who were not necessarily raised in the church environment, all of a sudden, because of the calamity of the pandemic, it brought fear on people. It made them think about their lives, their mortality. It made them sensitive to spirituality. People who otherwise weren't really sensitive to the spirituality all of a sudden had questions. And so we were doing some live things prior to the pandemic, but of course, everybody, became proficient in living during the pandemic on Facebook. And we found that the numbers went up. People that didn't look like they were acclimated to the church culture were coming on. I had a lot of questions being asked in my inboxes about God and about salvation and the afterlife. So I think it created the question that I think we want to create, as Pastor Harris said, in homes, in places where, religion and church is not really being reached. And so certainly I believe that there was some good out of this, because we found that, personally speaking, our church wasn't really affected by the pandemic as it relates to things that we were trying to accomplish. We did some renovations during the time of the pandemic. People that we didn't know were sowing into the ministry. We even accepted some new members into our church during the pandemic. People that I hadn't met until after we began to open the doors came in and says, I joined the church when you did your altar service, and now they're coming in. So in terms of, all that I'm hearing, I just believe that there was some God in this whole dynamic. There was some God in this whole situation, even though, there was some devastations and there were some sacrifices and some losses. I believe ultimately there's going to be visible gain and visible growth from this whole situation. So, I think evangelism was heightened throughout this pandemic experience.
Yes.
Yeah, I really believe that in the midst of calamity, you find God there all the time.
Amen.
When you think it's the worst of situations, when you think that things have gotten to their bottom, God shows up.
Yes.
And, the Bible tells us even that in the last days, it talks about both a great falling away, and at the same time, it says, I'm going to pour out my spirit on all flesh. So every time you have this outburst of negative things that happen in the spiritual realm, God always rises up and through it, and
Amen.
that ties into, kind of where we are right now and the key subject for tonight, because, tomorrow is Sunday.
Yes.
And tomorrow is Halloween.
Yes.
I don't remember that happening for a while. I can't remember.
I don't either.
And we all know all the indications, significance, all the things that tie into Halloween from a secular perspective. And, there's been a lot of conversations and streaming online surrounding the church's role or not, connection or non-connection into Halloween. So Halloween, we know it represents evil spirits. It represents a lot of things around death and devils and all witches and rituals, all these things that have been tied into it. And so there are a lot of people that question, should the church have anything to do with Halloween or Halloween celebrations of any time? Let me just throw out the question to start there, and let's see where we are. Dr. Harris, what is your feeling surrounding the church and any connection or lack of connection to Halloween?
Oh, one of the things that we must understand in terms of it is there's always going to be those who have various opinions relative to this. It's almost like the nature of should you take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. And again, I'm definitely an endorser of it as well. I think there is a place in which we certainly are not celebrating Halloween, but we are embracing the opportunity for us to evangelize during this particular period. And, regardless of scenarios, there's always this opportunity, whether it's October 31st or even beyond that, that we understand the importance of simply how we're not going to keep everyone away from, the nature of getting costumes and candy, but we can definitely provide the opportunity of safe environments, that we can provide the ability for us to, like the scripture says in, I believe it's John chapter 1, somewhere around verse 5, where it talks about that light that shines in darkness, because darkness cannot overcome it. And so we have to take these abilities, we have to take these moments, we have to be able to simply be able to have this opportunity that Christ can come in the midst of this moment. I've heard of churches that have not necessarily just given out candy, but they've given out tracts. They've given out things that would be beneficial, scripture readings, because, in the midst of this is an important period among other times that, again, we have to allow our light to shine.
Yes.
And I just want to say for our audience that, we didn't pick either of these brothers to come because of any opinion we knew they had. We actually don't know what their opinions are. I'm finding out for the first time. But we just wanted to draw some other voices into it. So Bishop, what kind of relationship has your church had with Halloween? Any connections in the past or anything involved in the past with Halloween?
Yes, sir. Right now, my son, Prophet Wells, is over at the church with a bunch of kids running around, and they're getting candy and all of these things. I have been a supporter of this because not only the safety issues as it relates to, our children in a very dark season. When I say dark season, it's just so much going on in our world today, so much divisiveness and division. So I don't think it's necessarily a safe thing to have our children knocking on doors of strangers and such. So we believed in creating an environment, as Pastor Harris said, that was safe and also informational. We could educate the kids on what Halloween is. But I also think that there's another aspect that we should be thoughtful of as it relates to celebrating. And I don't think that what we're doing is celebrating Halloween. I think it's an alternative. I think that when you take something away from a child, you have to replace it with something. And so we're allowing them to come into a Christian environment and not have to participate. I am, although against celebrating Halloween, because I have some understanding of the foundation and the roots of Halloween. And because I understand the roots of it, I don't think that believers should participate in that way with this particular celebration. And I think if we really, the more you look into it and the more you look into where it comes from and also how it was altered from its original meaning to something a lot darker than the original meaning was intended, I think then we must notice that there's something demonic and satanic attached to the date of October 31st. Not so much that it's that date, but because of the date that was selected to offset what was intended was All Saints Day on November 1. And I think what we must understand is that Satan has always tried to mock or divert from truth. And so, as you know, 7 being the perfect number or the number of completion, Satan chose the number before, and then he mocked the Trinity by giving it 3 6s. And so here, the actual day of All Halloween or All Hallows Day was November 1, and it was for the church. It was for recognizing the church and the saints that have passed on and celebrating their labor. And then, of course, October 31st was All Hallows Eve, and which was just like Christmas Eve, the same as, because, I think All Hallows Day is also Hallowmas, which is, another high day, spiritual day for God. The enemy or Satan or the demonic realm selected that they would offset that great day with a day where they worship the dead and conjured up the dead. And today now, because the saints dressed up and went door to door celebrating the believers, Now they've took it and altered it, and they dress up like monsters and ghosts and goblins, and
Yes,
they knock
demons.
on doors,
Yes.
and they celebrate on the day before to offset the real truth of what All Hallows Day means. So, yeah, I think the more we know and the more we study, I think the more we should refrain from participating in any way. The children are allowed to wear costumes, but they're not allowed to be a monster or a ghost or anything that is demonic.
Yes.
And we let them have fun, and we talk about God and talk about things that I think would be conducive to their spiritual learning. So yes, we do participate, but yet we do not celebrate Halloween.
Yes.
Well, I think one important thing that we have the opportunity to do is to teach, right? I think it's important, and I think what everybody wants to understand that if you have something on that day or in alignment or at the same time, simultaneous, it's not necessarily saying that you're condoning Halloween. But oftentimes, from my perspective, I have found it to be a very good evangelism tool to children. So likewise, we started a few years ago doing a Hallelujah Night event, and it started with us for the safety aspect.
Right.
We wanted to have, because there were so many things going on, and by the way, I want to show you a couple of things in a moment about what's happening now. But there were so many things going on. There were a lot of predators coming out on Halloween.
Yes.
There were all these other things happening. It just became an unsafe environment for our kids to be going out in these areas. And so as a result of that, we started doing something in-house. We started the same thing: no ghouls, no goblins, no demons.
Yes.
But
no
they would come
devils.
in, and what my team started doing is teaching the kids Bible stories at the event. So they'd have fun, they'd have candy, and then they would teach them. And you were getting kids that didn't go to the church on a regular basis that were coming to the event. So it was starting to get to be like a vacation Bible school type of thing, where you're drawing the kids in.
Yes.
And if you don't do anything, you lose the opportunity to teach right from wrong,
Right.
good from bad. And then they just do whatever they see everybody else doing, and they don't even, as you just described, Bishop, they don't understand what they're doing.
Right.
They're just having fun. They're just getting candy. So it gives the opportunity to not only help keep them safe, sometimes help keep them warm,
Yes.
but also to make sure they have a healthy environment.
Yes.
And that they get a lesson, a spiritual lesson out of what would just be given to the devil, frankly.
Right.
And it's that aspect that concerns me, this to Dr. Harris, of people in the church who feel, number one, like, oh, that's the devil's day, we're not touching it. I'm not really all that excited about giving or surrendering that day to the devil.
Right.
Absolutely.
To say,
Exactly.
look,
Absolutely.
that's his day. We're
So
not doing anything
yes.
on that day, because that to me seems to be totally opposite of what the church is supposed to do. I thought we were supposed to charge against strongholds.
Exactly.
Right.
And that we were supposed to bring up truth in the midst of darkness, not just to say, okay, that's a dark day.
Yes.
We'll be
So
saved tomorrow.
We'll just
right?
stay here and not have anything to do or say.
So I mean, Dr. Harris, I mean, that's some of my issues with the concept of leaving it alone, and also, the concept of the church. Somebody sent us a message because we posted something we were doing this year, and they were going off. This is why somebody's like, this is why I'm blocking your page. This is why, y'all, we would never do that at our church. And somebody said to me, they said, I told them that, we teach Bible stories. We have the kids come together. We get new kids to come in. We teach. And they were like, well, we teach Bible studies in Sunday school.
Right.
And that's all I needed to hear. That was like, look, I was like, this is the problem with the church.
This is the problem.
Because everybody ain't coming to your Sunday school.
Exactly.
That's right.
But you have the opportunity now to go out and get kids
Right.
that are formative and are not coming to your church.
Exactly.
And give them some word. I mean,
Right.
why would you not want to do that?
That's right. Absolutely. One of the things I want to just sort of add in here is that there's many things that we look at from popular television programs, movies. They make these particular areas of a cult really to be themes. Witchcraft, it seems like it's fun and it's acceptable. And I truly believe, and you're on the right track, Pastor Stewart, in terms of the ability that we've got to be able to stand up really against this, to be warners against these particular areas. You know, the Bible instructs us vividly about how believers, we should be in the world, but not of the world.
Right.
And so, you know, with this, you know, if we're just hiding behind not doing anything and just allowing this to just go without saying anything or giving the opportunity to share the gospel, then we're not doing our justice. So I strongly believe, you know, like Bishop said, that we have to, you know, really substitute in these particular areas. It's not that we're giving in to what is there, but overall, we have a message that we want to give to every child, because if we reach one, that one can reach 10, that 10 can reach 100, that 100 can reach 1,000, that 1,000 can reach 10,000 and beyond. So it's important. And on tomorrow, we're going to have our doors open, because what's important for us is to make sure that, again, we have this opportunity to share Christ.
Right.
You know, and we talk about the safety aspect. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this or not, but I just saw something this week about something called Delta 8 THC. And it is a derivative of marijuana,
Right.
but it's being put into candy.
Yes.
And so now you have these gummies. I don't think you guys can see this on your screen unless you're seeing on Facebook, but they have gummy packages that look just like candy.
Yes.
And they can be sold without any restriction right in convenience stores. They have packages that look like cereal, little bags of cereal. This one is called, I'm showing now, it's called Fruit Loops, LOOPZ.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it says right in it, 500 milligrams of THC in it.
Yes.
And they can put this stuff right inside the convenience stores and right in the side. And it looks like you're getting candy. It was on the news earlier this week because some kid got some of this stuff. And you know, if a kid gets it, they eating the whole bag.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're not eating one or two of them. And
Right.
so what happens if people start giving these out, you know,
Right.
as candy on Halloween, things like
Right.
this, you know,
Right.
circulating these
You're
things
right.
out amongst children. This is not just bad. This is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, and when you're looking at really this picture,
Mhm.
it looks appetizing.
Yeah.
It looks
Yes.
such an appeal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and these are the things that we definitely have to consistently, you know, guard against,
Absolutely.
and what we're seeing.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, you can get different derivatives of marijuana in edibles.
Right.
You get it in cookies. You get it in food. You get it in teas.
I heard brownies.
And brownies, yes, edibles,
I've heard. I
desserts.
don't know.
Yeah, well, it's very true. It is very true. California was one of the first places that made it legal. Now that this looks like something that a kid would want to buy,
That's the concern.
that's the concern,
Right? This,
Yes.
I mean, it looks like
and that
a
it is
child
available.
product, you know?
Yes.
I mean, what else? Why else would you have cereals?
And
Packaged like
and you
this.
name it Fruit Loops
Right.
with a Z.
Like it's
Yes.
supposed
Right.
to imitate.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's a kid gonna think? It looks like it's the same colors as the package.
Yes.
It looks like the package. A child
Wow.
gets into this. Look, tear, share, and enjoy. There ain't gonna be no sharing.
Right.
They're going
Right,
in and they're
right.
taking this all going down.
Yeah.
And you just think
Exactly.
about how dangerous that is.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yes.
So, you know, first of all, the aspect of creating a safe environment is a serious issue in and of itself.
Right.
Of being able to teach and train our children good from bad, right from wrong, along with protecting them. Now, I know in the old church, you know, old days, they didn't allow us saved kids or kids of saved folks, whether we were saved or not,
Right.
to do trick or treating.
Right.
I remember as a child, actually, my parents did. I remember in Buffalo when I was a real young child. Now my parents with me, but that was back in days when they still gave out apples, you know. So
Right.
that was back a ways. But you know, now more and more, you know, as generation after generation has gone forward, our kids, like it or not, say it's good, bad, or ugly, are more engaged in more things in society now, whether they come in the church, out of the church, whatever, than ever before. I just feel like, if there's an opportunity to teach children what's right from wrong, that's an opportunity we should be taking.
Wow.
And so that's what I'm
Absolutely.
concerned about when people are so anti the church doing it. If the church is not in a position to teach right from wrong, something just doesn't feel right with me
Right,
on that.
right. And also,
Right.
I think as adults, as Christian adults, we are able to monitor what our children are getting because we know what we're giving them
Right.
as far as the candies, because children want their candies too. But we are able to
they do.
monitor it.
And
Yes.
Bishop Wells said that earlier. If you're going to take something away, right?
have to
And
replace
this,
it.
I remember when my kids were growing up. This was some of what we were dealing with because if you're going to take this away, and all the other kids are doing it,
Right.
I mean, you're either training the kid that to be saved means that you don't have any fun while everybody else does, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
if you're going to take something away, the concept of giving something in exchange that's different or better,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
What's going on out there is okay, but there's something better over here for you
Yes.
for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
I think we want to show the church as being better, not lesser. So, and this whole concept again that you were mentioning, Bishop, about how the devil counterfeits
Yes.
Absolutely.
everything that God does.
Yes.
I mean that's biblical all the way through. He counters and counterfeits and
Yeah.
corrupts in another fashion everything that God does. And so
Absolutely.
to show the right versus the wrong, the clean versus the filthy, I think
Yes.
is so important.
Yes.
Yes.
Very true.
Pastor, it's amazing, because I think that this is so needful because on Wednesday of this week, I had the unfortunate opportunity to preach a funeral for a 6-month-old baby
Oh man.
who had went to the daycare and saw a bag that looked like candy and began to consume because that's what kids do, put everything in their mouths.
Yeah.
And it was street drugs. It was opium. And one of our dear leaders, precious leaders, a grandbaby, was victimized by the thought or the deception that this was something when it was another thing. And so this is another trick of the enemy during a very dark season. We must understand now that the reason why this season was chosen, the festival that was associated with this was the Sanhemian. And that festival was selected to be in this particular time because it's the darkest season of the year. And they chose this dark season because deception is released in the darkness.
Right.
Lies are infused into our lives during this dark season. The enemy loves dark. That's where confusion is. And so now they also believe that during this time of All Hallows Eve, that the line is so thin between the dark world and the alive world, and the death world and the alive world, that all sorts of deceptions are going out. So now they label this poison for children because the enemy knows if we can get these children in the bud stages and infuse drug activity into their lives, then of course it will disrupt their entire lives and derail their entire lives. So we have to protect our children. And the only way we can protect our children is controlling the narrative, controlling the environment. And again, you all said it, and I agree. I believe, I told my church on Sunday, I said, listen, I want my children to end up with more candy than the kids that are knocking on the doors.
That's right.
I want them to have more fun than the kids out there walking through the mud and the cold and the rain.
right.
I want the church family, the children, to say we had a ball. I don't want them to go to school and say, look at our bag and you got the little church bag. You know what I mean? And so, we have to protect our children from this spiritual darkness. I don't mean to be overly deep with this, but I do believe that the intention of this particular day is demonically rooted. And the enemy is using every way that he can
Every way.
to deceive our children and to infiltrate the lives of our babies. So, again, and I think you guys have said it so well, it is vitally important that we create a fun. My children never went trick-or-treating, but they absolutely love church. Now, I didn't love church growing up because it was strict. It was strict, and they didn't think like we think. It was structured and it was very rigid.
Different era.
But I believe that God has given us wisdom in times like these to make sure that we can infuse alternatives for these kids and infuse all sorts of ideas that will keep their attention rather than just tell them, no, you can't do this and you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great atmosphere. I remember, at my grandfather's church in Buffalo, we had a big young people's group, and your church and your young people remind me so much of that atmosphere because they were strict and they still love church. Those as kids, they just love being there. That was where their friends were. That was the connection point. There's something about an atmosphere like that in the church which is really powerful, and its longevity carries with children. I mean, because one thing we have seen an amazing strategic dissection of number one of our families. And strategic attacks on our children now like we have never seen before, and it's been coming and it's been aggressive and growing more and more and more. Families and children, catch them early. And so the issue of what do we have to do to make sure that our children are imprinted with right versus wrong, good versus bad, and when you get in situations like this, you can't afford to give away territory like this. Right. Even though it's one day. And you also mentioned, Bishop, earlier about Christmas. And we go the same thing about Easter, right? We consider these to be religious holidays, but they also have been sacrilegious holidays. And so that counter effect is always there, that we're trying to take back or take away from the devil and not allow him to just have it. Right.
Exactly.
So
absolutely,
as we go forward, and see where things are heading, this I think the aspect of evangelism is certainly something that churches as a whole, particularly here in the United States, have to get back into our agendas. I mean, churches in the United States, I think prior to COVID, were so focused on discipleship of people in the church versus going out and getting those. And church growth is your person coming to my church and my church. How many of your people can I aggregate that are already church? And then I preach to all the church folks, right? And then we have conferences with church people. I think that mindset of evangelism is so necessary, and it seems like a lot of these things, like live streaming and all these things, have forced us to think out of the box. So, what do you have in mind? What do you envision? I'll start with Dr. Harris for future, for where we go here in terms of all these losses that we're stacking up. I mean, if you think about this as a game where wins versus losses. You think about all the generations, the children that we're losing, and the families that we're losing and that are breaking apart. What's our game plan? For compelling people back to God.
I believe it's important for us to stick with our roots, to stick with what we know. I believe it's important for us to understand that even in a changing environment, changing world, our culture has to remain the same. It's like the old saying that we would say that holiness is still right. The particular ways of how we grew is important, and really even in this particular season that we're in, one of the number one things that we have to be able to do to really honor Christ in the midst of this time and beyond is we have to be able to show love, and because so many people need that. They need to the embracing. They need to know that they're valued. They need to know that someone cares. They need to know that there is, of course, life ahead. And when it comes, of course, to our children, and quite naturally, thank God for our children who were able to grow up in wonderful homes. This is the ability for us to be able to, be neighborly, to in the midst of this, take hold to a kid and introduce them to not just the candy, not just, again, the Santa Claus, not the not the Easter Bunny, but what it really means in terms of Christ. I even want to challenge someone to do this, by tomorrow. Get 31 tracks, 31 tracks that you can hand out to someone, because it's in that it helps for where we are, but of course for where we're going. But to, again, answer the question, we have to stick with what we know, which is what is right, and it's the way of God.
So, Bishop, last question to you along this same subject. This generation of young people, middle school, high school, are more confused, more depressed, more suicidal than perhaps anything we've ever seen. What do we do to win these young people back?
Yeah.
Tough question.
Go right ahead. I don't know if I interrupted your question.
I just said I'm leaving you with the tough one. So,
so, and it definitely is a tough one, and not so much the question, but just what do we do and how do we, engage these children? Yes, there is a lot of problems. We have a very intelligent generation, very knowledgeable, very educated, a lot of questions. But of course, they've become disconnected from a lot of the things that we were connected to that made us more complete, more whole. We weren't allowed to eat all around the house at dinner time. There was no phones that we could bring to the table. There was conversation at the dinner table. We prayed before we ate. We talked about school and different things. I was blessed to have a mother and a father in the household. And as Pastor Harris said, I think that we have to find our way back to some of those very important values that church was built upon. Of course, the church is a microcosm of the family. And you're not going to get great church if you don't build great families. And I think what we've lost is we've lost the family. We've lost those values. I think children are being babysat by television and by the internet and by social media. And I think they're being influenced by all of the things that they're seeing through social media. Everybody wants a like and a heart. I think we have to get our children back interested in the things that is going to be conducive to successful life, constructive life. And the way we were raised, I wasn't raised with a whole lot. We didn't have my mother. I'm the youngest of 8 children, and we had enough. But what we had is, as Pastor Harris said, we had a lot of love. We had a lot of structure. And my parents engaged us throughout the day, and they knew where we were. So we have our work cut out. I think the church has a part to play in this. But again, we've been blamed, and I'm going to say this: the church has been blamed for a lot of the things. I've got inboxes throughout all of the protests and throughout all of the things that we've gone through, and they want to know, what is the church doing? And I think that it's unfortunate that families or parenting has been substituted by pastoring. I think that pastoring is a very important piece, but I think that we have to start at the home. We have to take responsibility. And again, I can't preach to the choir unless they come to church and get in the choir. You know what I mean? And a lot of these people blaming the church because their child got in trouble or went to jail. And again, it hurts me, and it that's why we do what we do. But our jobs can't really be done effectively if there is not a responsibility for these families and these parents to bring children back to church. So there's a lot of things. I don't think that we can answer it in one night. I know that some of the things that we're discussing are answers, but I'm sure there's many more answers. But yes, we got to get back to some basic values, some basic things. Our children have gone astray and they've lost interest in the church. I think church needs to adjust and make some strategic changes. What won us will not win these children. And so we have to be strategic and be thoughtful and innovative in ideas to make church attractive to this younger generation.
Right.
And, I can't say I know the answer to that. I know that I want to know how we can do better and how we can reach these young people. But again, we have to hear from God, a lot of prayer and fasting, and make sure we're open to change. Churches have an uncanny knack of getting stuck. They build monuments where they should have just built an altar. I think we need to get to a place where we can build an altar, move on to the next phase, and move on to something new. Because again, old oil doesn't do it. Like, again, we need new oil on these churches. So, that's my thought. Tough question. I know that, none of us have the exact answer, but I think we can at least try to make some changes to bring some results to this new generation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
That's why it's an unfair question, because there's so many things intertwined to the roots of what's happening right now, and how we truly effectively make change. I mean, there are a lot of people that are spending their time full time trying to figure it out. But there is certainly a church approach and a church role that needs to be a part of that. And we'll have to dig in that. In fact, next time y'all got to bring the wives. We're gonna have all full house conversation. And kind of get some perspectives on the next thing we talk about. But we're gonna do this.
I asked my wife to come on, and she says I wasn't invited. So she's sitting right here in the living room with me.
No, she's not.
She says I wasn't invited.
Listen, tell her spotlight time is coming.
It's coming. Yes, we need to hear from the ladies.
This evening, I was like, man, we gotta get.
She's listening.
I said we gotta get Pastor Wells on.
That's right.
Bishop Wells.
That's right.
Then we gonna get Tracy on. We gonna do it up.
That's right. That's right.
And Tracy and my wife went to school together, so it's just a big reunion,
Man.
Okay.
Oh, man. So we missed that opportunity.
We did.
That's okay.
Next time.
Hey, you know what?
We're going to make a plan.
We're on every week. So
we're going to make a plan.
The next time Alabama has a bye week, we'll be ready.
Right. Yeah.
We'll know. As soon as the college football season is over, then we'll know we'll be ready to plan this out.
Okay.
Amen.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us. I think it's been a great conversation. I hope the people that have been with us live streaming and the people that will watch us later will really get something out of it. I appreciate your value added time to this.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Yes, thank
y'all
you.
have a good evening now.
Blessings, Pastor Harris. It was a pleasure being on with you.
Same here, Bishop. God bless you, sir. All right.
Sir.
All right. We'll see you now.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Well, we're thankful to have them on as our guests, and what a great conversation that was. Definitely appreciated having that feedback. It's good and refreshing.
It is
to get more people involved in the conversation.
Exactly.
And by the way, you don't always necessarily have to. It's not always about agreement.
Right.
It's not always about we have the same opinions on things. You can have opposite sides of a discussion and still have a really great, insightful and learning conversation as well.
Exactly.
So we always enjoy when people call us and they have thoughts on things that are going on.
Yeah, hear different perspectives.
Yeah. So we'll have more going on. I hope this has been helpful to people. I do want to remind people to stay conscious of these drug infested candies that are out there. It's just a crazy thing to think about. But when you see packages like this or a package, you just have to check everything now. I mean, seriously, you just got to check everything. They are labeled, but a kid's not going to see that. So when your kids come home with stuff, even over this weekend, make sure you check it out.
Check it.
Because you don't know what they might be grabbing and somebody's putting in their hands, smiling at them and telling them to come on and get out of the bag. You got to be watchful.
Right.
This is one of the issues of safety associated with this, and this weekend. You have to make sure safety first.
Safety first. Right? That's right.
So thank you, everybody. I think we had a good show. I think we've enjoyed it on our end, enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you have as well. and we'll look forward to connecting up and doing this more again in the future, as of next week.
Yes,
Now
next
keep
week.
in mind that, until then, we got a lot of stuff going on here. Of course, we've got our Bible study that's been happening. We'll be on tomorrow, by the way. First of all, I should probably talk about that first. We're continuing this series on Get Your Faith Back. So 11:30 tomorrow morning, you can call us on that, and you can call in, or you can stream in, or you can come live. And as we alluded earlier, made some interesting changes going on in church to make the experience even greater. So if you're in the church, you get one element of experience that is almost 3D. We'll put it that way now.
Yes.
Or you can join us online as well. And also, I believe that the Spirit of God will be with you as well. There's a great word for you tomorrow about declaring and decreeing. I'm building towards some stuff here. So join us tomorrow for that 11:30 a.m. Also on Wednesday, our Bible study continues on. Actually, Tuesday this week.
Exactly. Tuesday.
So it says Wednesdays, normally Wednesdays, but this week our Bible study, our midweek inspiration will be on Tuesday night, same time, 7 o'clock. Join us this Tuesday as we continue 2 Samuel. We're in chapters 6 through 10. And I promised I was going to finish off chapter 5 because there was a piece at the end of chapter 5, one of my favorite scriptures, powerful message there at the end of chapter 5 I want to talk about on Tuesday, and then we'll go 6 through 10. So all the Bible students get ahead on that, and we'll be ready to join you. Don't forget to join our page as well. Go to our YouTube page, Conversations, Pam and David, and just hit the subscribe button. We want to get those numbers up. And so if you miss here live, not on Facebook, you can always get the whole catalog of things archived from the past there as well. So, all right, we thank everybody for being with us. Hope you enjoyed the program. We look forward to doing it again, next week. Maybe we'll do it again next week.
Yeah.
8 o'clock, we'll be back. Until then, everybody have a good night. Be blessed. We'll see you in church tomorrow morning. Have a good one, everybody.
Yes.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
How you made it. Never stop believing. Now you're walking.